Stop scrolling for just 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Because what I'm about to say might explain why your life hasn't changed. It's probably not your job. It's probably not your income. And it's definitely not because you aren't capable. The real reason is hidden in the few hours after you get home from work. Those evenings are either building the life you've been praying for or silently destroying it. I know that because I lived that cycle for years. Every night I promised myself tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow never came until I made 6 simple changes that completely transformed my life. If you stay with me until the end, I'll share every one of them. And the last one is the habit that changed everything. Most people think success is built between 9 in the morning and 5 in the evening. That's what the world tells you. It tells you your career determines your future. It tells you your paycheck determines your value. It tells you that if you work hard enough during office hours, eventually life will reward you. But here's what I discovered. Your job may pay your bills, but your evenings determine your future. The average person finishes work exhausted, walks through the front door, throws their keys on the table, sits on the couch, opens social media, watches television, eats whatever is convenient, and tells themselves they'll start changing tomorrow. Then tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next month. Before they know it, another year has disappeared. Life didn't change because their evenings never changed. There was a season in my life when I realized I wasn't failing because I lacked talent. I wasn't stuck because I lacked opportunity. I wasn't behind because someone else had an advantage. I was behind because every evening I was accidentally voting for the life I said I didn't want. Every hour after work was casting a vote. Either I was voting for growth or comfort. Either I was investing in tomorrow or consuming today. That realization changed everything. The first thing I did was stop treating the end of work as the beginning of entertainment. Think about this. Why do so many people say, I deserve to relax? Of course you need rest. Rest is necessary, but there's a difference between rest and escape. Rest restores your energy. Escape steals your future. Scrolling endlessly doesn't restore your mind. It distracts it. Watching random videos for 4 hours doesn't prepare you for tomorrow. It postpones tomorrow. I asked myself a difficult question. If someone watched every evening of my life, would they believe I was serious about my dreams? That question exposed me, because my goals were big, but my evenings were small. I wanted extraordinary results while living ordinary habits. And life doesn't work that way. Your habits reveal what you truly believe. Not what you say, not what you post, not what you promise. Your habits tell the truth. So instead of asking, how can I relax tonight? I started asking, how can I become stronger tonight? That single question redirected my life. The second thing I did was create a shutdown ritual. Most people leave work physically, but never mentally. They carry meetings into dinner. They carry stress into conversations. They carry problems into bed. Their body leaves work, but their mind clocks overtime. I realized that if I wanted productive evenings, I needed a clear transition. Every evening I would take a few minutes to review the day. What went well? What could improve? What absolutely needed my attention tomorrow? Once I wrote it down, I gave myself permission to stop thinking about it, because clarity creates peace. When your mind knows there's a plan, it doesn't have to keep replaying unfinished conversations. Instead of carrying work home emotionally, I carried lessons home intentionally. That changed the quality of my evenings. The third thing I did was make learning my evening habit. Successful people understand something that average people overlook. Your income rarely grows beyond your knowledge for very long. The marketplace rewards value, and value grows through learning. I stopped asking whether I felt like reading. I stopped asking whether I was in the mood to study. Mood became irrelevant. Growth became the priority. Even 30 minutes a night compounds into hundreds of hours every year. Imagine improving your communication every evening. Imagine studying leadership every evening. Imagine learning financial principles every evening. Imagine strengthening your mindset every evening. 5 years later, you're not the same person. Most people underestimate what consistency can do because they're obsessed with immediate results. They plant seeds today and expect fruit tomorrow. Life rewards farmers, not gamblers. The farmer understands something powerful. The harvest always arrives after faithful planting, never before. The fourth thing I did was prepare tomorrow before tomorrow arrived. This sounds simple, It almost sounds too simple, but simplicity is often where greatness hides. Before going to bed, I planned my next day. My clothes were ready. My priorities were written down. My schedule was clear. My distractions were removed. Why? Because every decision you eliminate tonight becomes energy you save tomorrow. Many people wake up already exhausted because the first hour of their day is spent making unnecessary decisions. Should I wear this? What should I eat? What should I work on first? Where did I put that file? Success loves preparation. Confusion loves procrastination. When tomorrow already has direction, your morning begins with momentum instead of hesitation. The fifth thing I did was protect my environment. You become what surrounds you. Not instantly, gradually. If your evenings are surrounded by noise, your thinking becomes noisy. If your evenings are surrounded by negativity, your attitude slowly changes. If every conversation revolves around complaints, don't be surprised when your vision shrinks. I started becoming intentional about what entered my mind. The books I read, the conversations I entertained, the videos I watched, the music I listened to, the voices I allowed to influence my thinking. Your mind is like fertile soil. Whatever you plant repeatedly eventually grows. Fear grows. Confidence grows. Discipline grows. Excuses grow. You don't get to choose whether something grows. You only get to choose what you plant. That's why your evenings matter so much. Because what enters your mind at night often directs your actions in the morning. The sixth thing I did was remember why I started. Discipline fades when purpose becomes blurry. The reason many people quit isn't because the work is impossible. It's because they forgot the vision. Every evening, I reminded myself that my future family deserved a better version of me. My dreams deserved effort. My potential deserved development. My calling deserved discipline. When your purpose is clear, sacrifice becomes easier. You stop seeing evening growth as something you're losing. You begin seeing it as something you're investing. The greatest investors understand delayed gratification. They willingly give up small pleasures today for larger rewards tomorrow. Life works exactly the same way. Every evening you have a choice. Comfort or growth. Consumption or creation. Entertainment or education. Excuses or execution. Nobody can make that decision for you. Nobody can discipline you into your destiny. You must choose. The beautiful part is this. You don't have to transform your entire life tonight. You only have to transform this evening. One evening becomes 1 week. 1 week becomes 1 month. 1 month becomes 1 year. Eventually, people will call you lucky. They'll wonder how everything changed so quickly, but you'll know the truth. It wasn't quick. It happened one evening at a time. Never underestimate ordinary evenings filled with extraordinary discipline. Because your future isn't created in dramatic moments. It's built quietly when everyone else has stopped trying. While others are waiting for motivation, you're building momentum. While others are escaping reality, you're creating a new one. While others are consuming life, you're constructing it. Remember this. Your employer pays you for the hours you work. Your future rewards you for the hours you invest in yourself. When the workday ends, your opportunity begins. The person you become after work is the person who eventually changes your life. So tonight, don't ask yourself what will make you comfortable. Ask yourself what will make you stronger. Because one intentional evening has the power to change tomorrow. And enough tomorrows have the power to change your entire life. Most people walk through the front door after work, believing they have earned the right to completely switch off. They tell themselves, I've worked hard all day. I deserve to do nothing. On the surface, that sounds reasonable. Hard work deserves rest. Your body needs recovery, and your mind needs moments of peace. But there is a huge difference between recovering your energy and abandoning your purpose. One restores your strength. The other quietly steals your future. If every evening is spent escaping reality instead of preparing for tomorrow, don't be surprised when tomorrow looks exactly like yesterday. I had to learn that lesson the hard way. For a long time, I thought my workday was the only part of the day that mattered. I believed that once I clocked out, the rest of the evening belonged to comfort. Hours disappeared into television, endless scrolling, random videos, and distractions that felt harmless in the moment. None of those things seemed dangerous because they weren't destroying my life overnight. They were doing something much worse. They were slowly convincing me that staying the same was acceptable. Every evening I spent avoiding growth was another evening I postponed the life I claimed I wanted. The truth is that your job may pay your bills, but it rarely builds your future on its own. The future is often built in the hours that nobody pays you for. It's built when you're willing to invest in yourself after everyone else has decided the day is over. Those evening hours are where new skills are learned, better habits are formed, stronger relationships are built, and bigger dreams begin to take shape. The people who achieve extraordinary results don't necessarily have more talent than everyone else. They simply refuse to waste the part of the day that most people surrender to comfort. I stopped asking myself, how can I recover from today? And started asking, how can I rebuild myself for tomorrow? That one question completely changed how I viewed my evenings. Instead of seeing them as an escape from responsibility, I began seeing them as an opportunity to become someone stronger, wiser, and more disciplined. Even if I only had an hour or two, I treated those hours like an investment instead of entertainment. I would read something that expanded my thinking, review my goals, learn a new skill, exercise, or spend quiet time reflecting on where I wanted my life to go. None of those actions felt dramatic, but together they created momentum that I had never experienced before. Here's what many people fail to understand. Rebuilding doesn't always look exciting. It often looks ordinary. It looks like saying no to one more episode so you can read 10 pages of a great book. It looks like preparing tomorrow's priorities before going to bed. It looks like choosing a meaningful conversation with your family instead of mindlessly scrolling through your phone. It looks like making decisions today that your future self will thank you for. Small choices repeated consistently create extraordinary outcomes. Remember this. Your evenings are not simply the end of your workday. They are the beginning of your personal growth. Don't spend every night trying to escape the life you have. Spend your evenings building the life you truly want. Recover your energy, yes, but never stop rebuilding your character, your mindset, your skills, and your vision. Because the person you become after work will always determine the future you wake up to. One of the greatest discoveries I ever made was realizing that the most valuable hours of my day were not the ones my employer paid me for. They were the hours after work, when nobody was watching, nobody was giving instructions, and nobody expected anything from me. Those hours revealed who I really was. During the workday, it's easy to be productive because there are deadlines, meetings, responsibilities, and accountability. But when the evening arrives, the decisions become completely yours. That's where your future is quietly shaped. The hours between finishing work and going to bed are either building your next level or keeping you trapped in your current one. Most people treat these hours as disposable. They protect their salary, protect their weekends, protect their vacation time, but they don't protect the very hours that have the power to transform their lives. Think about it. People will carefully budget their money, but casually waste 4 or 5 hours every evening without giving it a second thought. Yet time is far more valuable than money. If you lose money, you can earn it back. If you lose an evening, it's gone forever. No amount of success, influence, or wealth can buy back a single hour that has already passed. I reached a point where I had to ask myself a difficult question. If someone secretly recorded how I spent my evenings, would they believe I was serious about my goals? That question challenged me because my dreams were ambitious, but my habits were average. I talked about wanting financial freedom, personal growth, and a better future. Yet my evenings told a completely different story. My calendar exposed what my words tried to hide. The truth is, your schedule is a mirror. It reflects your priorities more accurately than your intentions ever will. From that day forward, I stopped leaving my evenings to chance. I stopped allowing boredom, convenience, or random distractions to decide how I would spend my time. Every evening began with a purpose. Sometimes that purpose was learning a new skill. Sometimes it was reading books that stretched my thinking. Sometimes it was working on a side business, improving my health, strengthening my relationships, or simply sitting in silence to think about where I was headed. The activity wasn't always the same, but the intention was. Every evening had to move me one step closer to the person I wanted to become. Here's something most successful people understand. Consistency always beats intensity. You don't have to transform your entire life in one night. You don't need 5 perfect hours every evening. Even one focused hour, protected from distractions and invested wisely, can completely change your future over time. 1 hour a day becomes 7 hours a week. 7 hours become hundreds of hours every year. Imagine spending hundreds of hours learning, growing, creating, and improving instead of consuming endless entertainment. Those hours compound just like money invested wisely. At first, the progress feels slow. Then one day people wonder how you became so knowledgeable, so disciplined, or so successful. They see the results but never notice the evenings that produce them. The reality is that every evening presents 2 invitations. One invitation leads to comfort, instant gratification, and temporary pleasure. The other leads to growth, discipline, and long-term transformation. Both require your time, but only one pays lasting dividends. Comfort gives you relief for a few hours, while growth rewards you for a lifetime. That's why protecting your evenings isn't to becoming obsessed with work or refusing to rest. It's about becoming intentional with the hours that have the greatest potential to change your future. Treat those hours like your greatest investment, because they are. Your career may provide your income, but the way you use your evenings will determine your legacy. One of the biggest changes I made was replacing mindless entertainment with intentional growth. Now let me be clear. I'm not saying entertainment is wrong. There's nothing wrong with enjoying a good movie, watching a game, or spending time doing something you genuinely enjoy. The problem begins when entertainment stops being a reward and becomes a lifestyle. Too many people spend every evening consuming instead of creating, escaping instead of improving, and distracting themselves instead of developing themselves. They say they want a better future, but every night they invest more time into temporary pleasure than permanent progress. Eventually, they wake up years later wondering why nothing has changed. The answer isn't complicated. Your future is always connected to what you repeatedly give your attention to. I used to believe I was simply relaxing after work, but if I was honest with myself, I wasn't recovering, I was hiding. I was hiding from difficult decisions, avoiding uncomfortable growth, and postponing the actions that could actually improve my life. It felt easier to watch other people succeed than to build something of my own. It felt easier to scroll through someone else's achievements than to create my own. The entertainment itself wasn't the problem. The problem was that it consumed the very hours I needed to become the person I wanted to be. Then I realized something that completely shifted my perspective. Every evening, I was feeding my mind. The only question was, what was I feeding it? Was I feeding it ideas that challenged me, books that expanded my thinking, conversations that inspired me, and skills that increased my value? Or was I feeding it endless noise that entertained me for a moment, but left me exactly where I started? Your mind works just like your body. If you constantly feed your body unhealthy food, eventually your health suffers. If you constantly feed your mind empty content, eventually your thinking becomes shallow. You cannot expect a powerful life while consuming powerless information every single day. So I began making intentional choices. Instead of reaching for my phone the moment I sat down, I reached for a book that could teach me something valuable. Instead of spending hours watching random videos, I listened to educational content that strengthened my mindset and expanded my knowledge. Instead of ending every evening with mental exhaustion from endless scrolling, I ended it knowing I had become a little wiser than I was the day before. Some nights I learned about leadership. Other nights I studied communication, financial principles, business strategies, or personal discipline. I wasn't trying to become an expert overnight. I was simply committed to becoming better than I had been yesterday. Here's what amazed me. The more I invested in growth, the less I craved meaningless entertainment. Growth created a different kind of satisfaction. Entertainment gives you excitement that disappears in a few hours. Growth gives you confidence that stays with you for years. Every new skill you learn, every book you finish, every lesson you apply becomes part of who you are. Nobody can take that away from you. It becomes an asset that continues paying dividends long after the moment has passed. The truth is, every evening you are making an investment, whether you realize it or not. You are investing in the person you will become 6 months from now, 1 year from now, 1 or 5 years from now. The question is whether you're investing wisely. Successful people don't simply protect their money, they protect their attention, because they understand that attention shapes direction, and direction determines destination. Where your attention goes, your life eventually follows. You don't have to eliminate every form of entertainment from your life. That's not the goal. The goal is to make sure entertainment serves your life instead of controlling it. Let it refresh you, but never let it replace your purpose. Let it be a small part of your evening, not the entire evening itself. Because every hour you intentionally invest in learning, thinking, creating, or improving yourself is an hour your future self will thank you for. Over time, those small investments become extraordinary results. One evening of intentional growth may not seem like much, but hundreds of intentional evenings have the power to completely transform your life. One of the greatest mistakes I used to make was waiting until I felt motivated before doing anything productive in the evening. I believed that after work I would somehow feel inspired to exercise, read, learn a new skill, work on my goals, or prepare for tomorrow. But the truth was, after a full day of responsibilities, I rarely felt motivated. My energy was lower, my willpower was weaker, and distractions looked more attractive than discipline. I kept thinking that one day I would magically become the kind of person who always felt excited to improve myself after work. That day never came. Then I realized something that changed everything. Successful people don't build their lives on motivation. They build them on systems. Motivation comes and goes like the weather. A system keeps working regardless of how you feel. Think about brushing your teeth. Most people don't wake up every morning filled with excitement to brush their teeth. They don't wait for inspiration or the perfect mood. They simply do it because it has become part of their routine. It's automatic. That's exactly how your evening habits should work. The less you rely on emotions, the more consistent your progress becomes. If every productive evening depends on feeling motivated, you'll only make progress when your emotions cooperate. But emotions are unpredictable. Some days you'll feel energetic, while other days you'll feel exhausted. If your success depends on your feelings, your progress will always be inconsistent. I decided to stop negotiating with myself every evening. Instead of asking, "What do I feel like doing tonight?" I created a simple system that removed unnecessary decisions. When I got home, there was already a sequence waiting for me. I would spend a few minutes clearing my mind from work, have dinner without rushing, take a short walk or stretch to reset my energy, dedicate time to learning or working on personal goals, prepare for the next day, and finish the evening with quiet reflection instead of endless scrolling. I didn't have to think about what came next, because the system had already made the decision for me. That eliminated the constant battle between discipline and distraction. The beauty of a system is that it protects you from your weakest moments. There will always be evenings when you're tired, frustrated, or discouraged. Life doesn't suddenly become easier because you've decided to grow. In fact, there will be days when everything seems to go wrong. Those are the moments when motivation disappears completely. But if you've built a system, you don't have to rely on excitement. You simply follow the next step. Systems reduce the influence of emotion and increase the power of consistency. They allow ordinary people to achieve extraordinary results because they remove the need to constantly make difficult choices. Another powerful lesson I learned was that a good system doesn't have to be complicated. Many people create impossible routines that require 3 or 4 hours every evening, only to quit a week later because they can't sustain them. A system should fit your life, not fight against it. Even 30 to 60 focused minutes spent consistently are more valuable than one perfect evening followed by 6 wasted ones. The goal isn't to impress people with an ambitious schedule. The goal is to create habits that you can repeat day after day, month after month, and year after year. Small actions become powerful when they are repeated long enough. I also learned to remove as many obstacles as possible. If my phone was the biggest distraction, I placed it in another room. If I wanted to read more, I kept a book where I could easily reach it. If I planned to exercise, I prepared my clothes in advance. Every small decision made earlier reduced the chances of making excuses later. Success often has less to do with willpower than with preparation. When your environment supports your goals, discipline becomes much easier to maintain. Here's what surprised me the most. Once the system became part of my daily life, I didn't need to convince myself to follow it anymore. It became as natural as driving the same route home or making coffee in the morning. The routine itself carried me forward, even on days when my motivation was nowhere to be found. That's the hidden power of systems. They continue working when emotions stop cooperating. Remember this. Motivation may get you started, but systems keep you moving. Motivation is a spark, but a system is the engine. If you truly want to stop wasting your evenings, stop waiting to feel inspired. Design a routine that works even when you're tired, distracted, or busy. Because the life you dream about will never be built on occasional bursts of enthusiasm. It will be built on simple, intentional actions repeated so consistently that they eventually become part of who you are. When your evenings are guided by a system instead of your emotions, progress is no longer an accident. It becomes inevitable. As we come to the end of this message, I want you to remember one simple truth. Your future is not created during the biggest moments of your life. It is created during the smallest decisions you make every single day. And for many of us, the most important decision is what we choose to do after work. Those evening hours may seem ordinary, but they hold extraordinary power. They can either become the bridge that carries you toward the life you hoard, or the trap that keeps you living the same day over and over again. You don't need a new year to start over. You don't need more money, more time, or perfect circumstances. You don't need to wait until life becomes easier. All you need is the courage to make a different decision tonight. Not next Monday, not next month, tonight. Maybe you've wasted hundreds of evenings. Maybe you've spent years telling yourself you'll change tomorrow. That's okay. Don't carry guilt into your future. Carry wisdom. The past was a lesson, not a life sentence. The moment you decide to become intentional with your evenings, your future begins to change. One better evening becomes one better day. One better day becomes one better week. One better week becomes one better year. That's how extraordinary lives are built. Not through one massive breakthrough, but through thousands of faithful, consistent choices that nobody else sees. Always remember this. The world celebrates results, but results are born in private. Nobody applauds you for reading one chapter of a book. Nobody notices when you choose discipline over distraction. Nobody sees the nights you spend learning instead of scrolling, planning instead of procrastinating, or growing instead of making excuses. But one day, they will see the person those evenings created. They'll call you successful. They'll call you lucky. They'll say you changed overnight. Only you will know the truth, that your success was built one evening at a time. So when you finish work tomorrow, don't ask yourself, what do I feel like doing? Ask yourself, what kind of future am I building tonight? Because every decision is a vote. Every habit is a brick. Every evening is an opportunity to become the person your dreams require. Your employer can only pay you for your time, but your discipline can multiply your future. Protect your evenings. Guard your attention. Invest in your growth. Build habits that your future self will thank you for. Remember, you don't rise to the level of your intentions. You rise to the level of your daily actions. The life you've been praying for, working for, and dreaming about isn't as far away as you think. It may be waiting on the other side of one intentional evening, then another, and another. Start tonight. Stay consistent tomorrow. Refuse to quit the day after that. Months from now, you'll look back and realize that the evening you decided to stop wasting your time was the evening your entire life began to change. Thank you for listening. If this message challenged you, don't let it end as inspiration. Turn it into action. Because information without action changes nothing. But action repeated consistently can transform everything. Your best days are not behind you. They're being built tonight.